Greetings, everyone, and welcome to After the Fact Live! Thank you all for joining me on this wonderful Saturday evening. What a day it's been. I've been a part of Growings React, I've been a part of Whose Line Is It Anyway? I've gotten to meet some wonderful people in the vending hall. And now, I'm about to bring it all down because I'm talking about this episode. This episode. You know, it's kind of funny. Bad episodes in the early 3 seasons are infamous. Later on in seasons, people were mostly critical of the seasons themselves, not individual episodes. That's at least been my experience. So, but this one always seems to stand out in people's memory. So much memory. So, and I'm almost forgetting. New screen recording. This is what I'm trying to do to make production easier on everybody. All right. So, Spike at your service. We begin with Twilight's book quest. And oh, what a stack of books. 12 books that she has to read in one weekend.
What would she do with the other 2 days?
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Are you kidding? How are you supposed to read 12 books in one weekend?
Princess Celestia obviously thinks I can, or she would never have assigned them to me.
Now, I just spent a panel defending Celestia, pointing out that she is a caring, nurturing grower. But let's be honest, if she wanted to teach Twilight a lesson about not taking on more than you can handle, this is what she'd do. She'd set an impossible limit and say to Twilight, the real lesson is for you to recognize what you can and can't do. Plus the trolling is just a fan meme bonus. Trollestia. So here's Twilight. She is settling in for a full weekend and 0 attention span beyond the books. So she's, and okay, that look. She's looking at them both like, hello.
What is she reading?
How you doing?
Why is somebody that looks at you like...
And remember, your wife will never look at you like that. But meanwhile, Spike is off on his own. And, okay, I'm just going to say this. In the early days, before the coming of Sugar Bell, guess which ship I captained?
Flutter Spike?
I appreciate that you were innovative enough to say Flutter Spike, but really? We're about to involve rarity, and I see a crab on this person's shoulder. So, the means of plenty. I was an avid Flutter Mac fan, so even this brief exchange of turning a dog over for walkies or grooming, I was like, oh, maybe there's hope. Now I'm just old and bitter. With a fantastic hat. But anyway, Spike's goals. Touch your nose or snout with your tongue. Play bongos on your belly, smell your feet. These are the limits of his ambitions without Twilight.
He discovered no one knows.
Did anybody find that weird? I found it weird.
You found that someone smells their own feet? Yes, that is quite weird.
And like, Spike is very fastidious.
Fastidious?
Like, you know, he seemed that way up to this point. And I'm like, that was unnecessarily gross. Yeah.
Well, they're trying to...
Besides that he's a boy, I guess?
A big part of this episode is the characters are subservient to the plot, rather than the plot flowing from the characters.
What to do.
Spike decides, hey, why don't I go ride this balloon? At which point, he promptly forgets how posts work. And basically, this pony, this pink mare, right there. This is the best shadow play I've ever done. This pony is proof that there is natural selection because she has nearly died several times by this point. The Equestria's trying to tell her that if Earth ponies were meant to fly, they wouldn't have invented her. At some point, you just gotta let natural selection take its course. That's my darkest moment.
Never!
But anyway, she's gonna be cheese because off it goes. There goes the balloon. And Spike is in hot pursuit. Very hot. to point something out. There are ample critiques to level against this episode, but one thing it does do is show Spike and his generous spirit. I don't care if dragon scales can resist magma. Anyone who suffered rug burn, rope burn, or any other kind of burn, where that looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
If your scales are smoking, something's wrong. But he will do that for Granny Smith. He will endure for his friends. And he is undaunted in his efforts. If there's one thing I can say in praise of this episode, it will show Spike's unwavering determination. Competence is another matter. Yeah, I just wanted to just no, I like the musical transition there. I mean, you start off with this balloon in the middle of nowhere, high above the clouds, and you hear this, it's like a very peaceful descent, even a little harp music. But then you get the lighting change of the Everfree Forest, including a skull-shaped bush, rock, whatever it is. You're very quickly aware that Spike is not in a happy environment. And I just find it a delightful transition. It sounds relieving, but no, we're in trouble. Now here we come to one of my favorite things in this show, one of the best mythical creatures I believe we've seen, the Timberwolves. Also one of the few integrations of 3D into this show. And I will not say it's seamless. In this shot, with the heavy use of shadows, and I admit the projector may not be doing the image true justice, but these Timberwolves look darn threatening. And here's a better image to really convey a sense of menace.
They look really believable.
They look believable. I mean, the staff did a good job, but these are 3D. I don't believe Flash would be up to the task of emulating this any other way.
Yeah.
So there is both the sense that they are there and present, but there's also something off. Something that doesn't quite match the rest of the animation. Yes?
I think the frame rate of the Timberwolves is lower than the native frame rate of the rest of the show.
Frame
I
rate.
think if they had matched it a little better, it would have worked a little bit more.
Okay. Let's talk about frames real quick. A frame, for those who don't know what frame rate is. Basically, when you look at an image, it's really just a moving picture. Well, that's a misnomer. It's a series of pictures strung together, and through optical blending, your mind and your eyes conspire to make it look fluid.
Yeah.
In movies, you have 24 frames in 1 second. In television, you can often have 30 frames per second. That's why sometimes it looks a little janky if you try to combine them. So, if that makes sense, I hope so. If not, well, then I'm going to have a video tutorial panel someday. Ooh, idea.
I'll be there for that.
All right. Woo. But let's talk about the Timberwolves, because they've been there since the founding of Ponyville. Pre-founding of Ponyville, in fact. They've always been a part of this. And what I like about the Timberwolves, they are not, as far as we know, any sort of malefic creation. They are not preying on ponies specifically. They're not ambling to get only at ponies and make them miserable. Spike is just in the wrong place at the right time, wrong time. You are basically trespassing in their domain. As was the case when Granny Smith ventured into the forest all those years ago to find the Zap Apples. And there they were. Yes, continuity.
Knew it.
Yes, continuity. And keep this image in the back of your minds, because we'll be coming back to it. But here's the thing about the Timberwolves. They're not evil. They're natural. In fact, they are part of nature's cycle. As menacing as they were to Granny Smith, they are also the heralds of the Zap Apples, which is one of their family's biggest life-sustaining... Oh, thank you. You are too kind.
Speaking of life-sustaining...
Life-sustaining. I'll hydrate. Yes. They are the heralds of the coming harvest. They're a part of nature's flow. You can't just get rid of them without denying yourself something important, without basically ruining the land, which is why when Nightmare Moon in that alternate timeline, the cutie remark, the last we see of a Timberwolf on screen, ever, is getting blasted by Nightmare Moon, which shows, again, her lack of respect for a natural cycle, her attempt to dominate the land and disrupt the natural balance. And I've said before how terrible Nightmare Moon's reign would be, and folks say, oh, I don't think it would be that bad, or she'd have a limit. The fact that she's so eager to swat up aside a Timberwolf, part of the natural order, shows me the lack of respect she has for the land, and how even through inaction or disinterest, she can cause great harm. So anytime I think the Nightmare Moon reign couldn't be worse, it probably is.
Yeah.
But now, Spike is probably not going to agree with me, because things are not looking so good for him.
Come and get me, you big goons! Run!
Nice shot.
I hit him with a rock! Now, I want to point something out. This is a precursor, in many ways, to Some Pony to Watch Over Me. Applejack has a very skilled gift at using an enemy's strength or the environment against them. Applejack, a lone pony, versus 3 Timberwolves is a no contest in a head-on fight. She'd be cutlets. But here she is, using the environment in a variety of ways to take out several superior, physically stronger enemies. And she'll do the same with the Chimera. Yeah, Chimera, not magical. It's so easy to get these creatures mixed up.
Yeah.
Well, they are all mixed up.
Exactly. So I've always admired that Applejack has this ability to think on her feet, on her hooves, and take down an enemy that really most wouldn't give her credit. Though we're also going to find out, apparently there's a little Looney Tunes DNA in these Timberwolves. The fact that one of them is giving the look, I call that one Elmer. He's about to go fun. And the other guys look back like, did you seriously just fall for that? And Timberwolf was like, I can't work with these idiots. It's like the one wacky head of King Ghidorah.
Poor Kevin.
But anyway, AJ is just going amok. But remember that picture of Granny Smith? I'm starting to think this family has some trouble in their DNA. Okay, let's see if I can't get you a proper comparison. Here's Granny Smith. Whoa, that's not a lot. Here's Granny Smith. And apparently her family has learned nothing. Or perhaps, and this is actually a point for later on in the episode, I enjoy that this episode shows us the Apple family bond without needing to test it. Like, oh, well, I was smarter in the past than now. So, Granny, Applejack. Granny, Applejack. Actually, I think these Timberwolves have preyed on too much lately. I swear this one's put on weight. Look at the silhouette here versus here. I feel like there's more weight to it.
It's probably different wood.
Oh, does this all make me look fat?
Maybe Rainbow Dash's quote in the first episode is true. When any pony comes in, it never comes out.
Oh, well, then there were a lot of stupid ponies. Why did she stop running? She stops, turns around, and is just sort of hoping those claws. That is a very menacing thing. And if this were Evil Dead, I'd say keep running. But I don't understand why she suddenly stopped right there. It's dramatic, but it doesn't make sense. And there, wow, headbutt. Spike thanks her with the traditional dragon headbutt. This is why no one says thank you to dragons.
You saved my life. Oh, don't mention it, Spike. Come on, we should be heading on back now.
And you think that would be that? Quite an adventurous start. But Spike, oh, doesn't he look adorable? Next to the dismembered limbs of his foe. Spike has something going on in his mind. He now owes Applejack a debt. And meanwhile, he probably owes some money to Cherryberry there. Who's just like, oh, Now I have to take this all the way back with it in my mouth, rope in my mouth, can't talk to my friends. If I say hi, we're going to go through this all over again.
Maybe that's why she's hiding so bad.
But the fact, she looks really mad.
Don't be afraid if you're not actively.
I have never studied physics, nor have I gone hot air ballooning. I just produce hot air.
I mean,
So there you go.
I don't think we've seen that balloon specifically deeply.
Not yet. Although, now we've seen it whisked around in a tornado. We've seen it hurtled with a speedy Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, but not deflating. Not yet.
we saw it punctured in Mare-do-Well.
Punctured in Mare-do-Well.
Yeah, she was falling.
Oh yeah, that's why nature doesn't want her flying. Gravity has claimed this mare. Anyway, Spike, here's where things start to go a little wonky. Spike is... Sorry? In Mare-do-Well, yeah.
I thought that was very soon.
Oh yeah, Spike punctured it there as well. Sparkle 7. So, but here's Spike wanting to pay his debt, but he's actually being a little clumsy. Such as when he goes to clean the family pig. And no, that is no other meaning.
Wait till Applejack sees how you sparkle.
See, he's never far away from the sparkles. But here's the thing. We're getting hints of what's to come. One, Spike is being very clumsy, as we see with the adorable bubble-beard Apple Bloom. But we're also seeing that Spike is very determined. It's not easy to walk up to a giant pig and clean it to such a degree that it looks just hunky-dory. Doesn't she look happy?
Yes.
Look at contentment. And Spike's on his knees. Please, please, please don't send me away. I still need to pay my debt. Now, here's one thing. I didn't grab the clip for this, but Apple Bloom runs off because she wants to get her water skiing cutie mark. And she's so eager. And Applejack just sort of laughs it off, is impressed, admired, and maybe just a little humoring, patronizing of Apple Bloom's passion. There's no need to have them in conflict. There's no need to have this tension. Getting to see the Apple family be just a family without the need to stir the pot, so to speak.
Pies! Pies! I'm helping Applejack make some pies!
What is happening?
What is going on?
Salmonella, that's what happened.
Salmonella? Well, I thought it was more with chicken, but there we go.
Eggs too.
Eggs too? Okay. Well, that's his yoke to bear. Thank you. Just so you know, your anger fills me with more power. But here's the thing. Spike is a chef for Twilight. He's looked after her nutrition all the time. I'm confident he's baked a few pies. Why all of a sudden is he so uncoordinated? So messed up? Why is he making a mess? Oh, look at that. The eggs are on the wall.
How?
They're covering the writing.
Too many hooks to
It's
the head.
just another egg on the wall.
Uncoordinated mess.
I think he's just trying to get out of it.
That's the one thing I don't believe.
No.
See, here's another thing. Applejack and Granny Smith just exchanging this look. You know, granddaughter, grandmother. I don't get to see this with the Apple family very often. Usually we only get to check in on stuff when things are going wrong. I like seeing these two get along, share a wink, being a bit more knowledgeable.
Oops. Sorry, Applejack. Let me get something to clean that up.
But here's the thing. When y'all say he's overexcited, he's just really getting into this a bit too much, I understand that. But once he causes a big mess, Spike is usually one to self-check and snap out of his excitement. But it keeps going, and we find out why.
You saved my life. According to the Spike the Dragon Code, I owe you a life debt and must serve you.
Ah, the life debt. Life debt. Okay, let's start with his penmanship, clawmanship, which, no, it'd be pendragonship.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can ship a dragon with someone named Pen. Anyway, apparently he's written Spike backwards. Because that looks like an S.
Yeah.
But who knows? Once again, Equestria's alphabet makes little sense. Until we get to G5. But you might think, well, life debt.
If you don't let me do this, I won't be a noble dragon anymore.
Oh, well, I can't have you feeling like you're not a noble dragon now, can I?
Now, life debts. Life debts. You might think that this is the origin of the life debt, and Spike's pulling a Chewbacca. But I will have you know that the life debt is older than Star Wars, because Star Wars is often borrowed from the classic mythology, but also it's been used a heck of a lot.
Oh, Mrs. Howell, it's a great nig knock, or ain't knock nig. Oh, Mrs. Howell, it's a great big knock, and it's coming down!
Are you all right? Oh, there, my dear.
Yes, I'm all right, thanks to Gilligan.
Gillian, we are forever in your debt.
You know what? What? We must become Mr. Goodman's personal slaves because he saved our lives.
Yes, if it wasn't for him, we might have been electrocuted. Like this.
I swear on my dead relatives, even on the ones that are not feeling too good. I am your man forever. I am still your man, Sadara. I swore an oath. I will protect you. Even if it means I must protect you from yourself.
You have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful.
Yeah, whatever.
You have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful. You have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful.
Will you just leave me alone?
You saved our lives.
And we are eternally grateful. My boy.
Daddy.
You have saved my life, Christian. I will stay with you until I have saved yours. That is my vow.
Thanks, but I go to England. I relieve you of your obligation.
Get away from the autoclave.
Don't tell me what to do, you infernal.
Hey, what's with the light?
Just let him live. I swear I shall not rest until my debt to him has been repaid in full.
Your prayers have been answered, Major.
All right, so a lot of examples of life debt. We have Gilligan's Isle. We have the Count of Monte Cristo. We have Muppets Tonight. We have MASH. What was the other one? Toy Story 2 and 3. So this is used a lot. In fact, most of the times I looked into the origin of this, most people cite it as pure fiction. However, there is one recounting from Roman times when Fabius Maximus, and hey, that's what they went with back then, he saved the lives of Minicus from the forces of Hannibal. And upon their rescue, Minicus said to his savior, I call you by the excellent name of Father, because there's no more honorable name which I can use. And yet a father's kindness is not so great as this kindness bestowed by you. My father did not but beget me. Well, to you I owe not only my salvation, but also that of all of these men of mine. This is the idea of recognizing someone's excellence. In other words, it's a celebration of what they call vertical honor. You've got horizontal honor, which is what Spike's trying to accomplish, a baseline standard. Vertical honor is going above and beyond, becoming even more honorable and righteous. And this life debt idea is a celebration of that. However, there's also a thing in some of these sitcoms, especially Gilligan's Island. Either the person who is being waited on hand and foot, like Gilligan and Klinger, find that this attention is a bit aggravating, or perhaps the person stuck in the servitude role is unhappy with how they're being treated. It happens in both ways. But here we're getting to the real problem with the episode, why it's so infamous. Spike is making Applejack very uncomfortable with his constant screw-ups. And because we know Spike to actually be very reliable and a great assistant to Twilight, this causes a dissonance. It really feels like his character is being subverted to fit the trope, rather than the story flowing from the characters themselves.
Spike is usually a more grounded character because like he pulls Twilight out of her like hysteria.
Exactly.
So it's weird to see him so completely opposite.
Exactly right.
And the problem is, this happens to Spike every time he's given the focus episode, pretty much for the first 6 seasons.
You've hit on the core of why. There's a formula I put out there for most of My Little Pony episodes. Pony A wants to accomplish this goal, but their personal flaw keeps interfering. You can substitute a character and a goal in there, but usually the standard. With Spike, there's usually not an external goal, no prize to be won, no challenge he's facing. He creates his own problems by his own selfishness, by his over-eagerness. He is the problem. And thus it's harder to root for him because there's no goal other than to get him to stop. I would say it wasn't until Dragon Quest. No, not Dragon... Yeah, actually Dragon Quest was a good one for him to learn. But then Gauntlet of Fire especially solidified that there was an external threat, a challenge before him, and it was up to Spike to find a way to accomplish it. Then we're rooting for him. We want him to succeed. When he's being the problem, we want him to stop. How can you root for a character that you want to say, shut up, or stop it? Oh wait, that's what happens when you go watch my videos. Oh, I appreciate that. Whoever said that, you helped me. Me and my tiny hat. So here's Twilight, and Spike is saying his firm goodbyes. And let's see, do I remember to get a clip?
And, as you are aware, I adhere to my dragon code, and this means I must serve her for the rest of my natural-born days. I'm sure you understand.
Wow. Now, here's the thing. We know Twilight cares a great deal about Spike, loves him dearly, so we know she's distracted. But then Spike should also know that she doesn't pay attention while reading. So we get this tearful goodbye from a very arbitrary moment. Meanwhile, again, the apples working together. I like seeing this cohesion. And, well, it's a brief, fleeting moment because Spike takes one step in and there we go. We're back to square one. Again, here it is, Spike being the problem. And then, of all things, now suddenly he's cooking what appears to have twigs. I think he baked a bird's nest in there. What happened to the eggs? Oh, God!
Where's the bird?
And he wishes to feed this monstrosity to his special pony.
You even look good when you're chewing. Who looks good when they're chewing?
Who says that to someone? Okay, I will not claim to be any sort of Casanova. By the way, Casanova also benefited from a life debt. But I doubt he went up to someone and said, you look good when you're chewing. Or, you look so good when you're chewing. That's a restraining order right there. Why on earth?
They got that in a question.
And if they didn't, it's about to be invented.
Oh, what I wouldn't give to have some pony forever in my debt. I'd get him to organize my closets and give me pedicures and help me with my sewing and...
Okay, I get it.
So now we're at the group reaction. I will say, I suddenly understand why Rarity was still single at the end of the series. I'm just going to say, if your standards are that, wow. Good luck. She needs a simp. Hey.
Did you know that in the original ending of this episode, Rarity ended up saving Spike's life later on, and then he ends up in her death or something, or she ends up in however it goes.
Someone's in dead, right?
And then she just gets him to do stuff for her, but it ended up too mean spirited, so they took it out.
Makes sense. Right, but then again, Rarity doesn't need a life debt. She just has to pat her eyelashes and Spike.
Right. What he was pointing out is, from what I heard, that was the reason that we didn't get a Rarity episode in season 3. This episode was originally written to be an episode featuring Rarity.
Well, she may have dodged the bullet on that one. But anyway, I also appreciate seeing the main six's reaction because, again, they're interacting without any threat or menace. This is a very rare chance to just see them in a sort of default state. And it's kind of funny to say, after 200 episodes, there aren't a lot of times you get to see that. Something they're about to do as a group, as friends, gets interrupted by the conflict. But it's very rare to just see them going about their daily lives. Granted, that would actually be boring in the long run. But I appreciate, if nothing else in this episode, a peek at that normalcy.
Rocks?
Yeah, a huge tower of rocks. And you're gonna build it.
I am?
Is this high enough? That's plenty high.
Alright, so first of all, for out of context shots, how does this stand? I I've seen terrible fan fiction start for less. I've gotten lightning bliss to facepalm. This is a good evening.
Well, Rainbow Dash did say she wanted to be a dragon.
Well, now she's just dragging him down.
Pun intended.
Always intend the pun. But here now we're seeing how the group would handle it, and Rainbow Dash, she thinks that she can deter Spike. So, positives for this episode: a brief glimpse into normalcy between the main six, but also showing Spike's determination. He doesn't quit, ever. Right now, this seems like, not a vice, but an obstacle to happiness. But this same effort will see him through Gauntlet of Fire and many other troubles. Or saving the Crystal Empire. Or helping out Twilight in any number of ways. Spike's determination is a positive, even if it has negative results. And he's totally happy. Go ahead, Rainbow Dash. Let's go for your 23rd concussion. 3 more, and the insurance company owes you a toaster.
That was awesome!
That's what we call the grimdark ending.
Nothing of value was lost.
Got Spike to the quick, right up there.
No, that was the writers punishing him for using Rainbow Dash's word awesome.
Well, look, they said, no force can kill me. I am unbeatable. Meanwhile, Rainbow's not looking so great, but she actually managed to do it again. So now they're trying to say, well, they're taking Fluttershy's approach. Instead of deterring him, well, reduce Applejack. That's basically what we're saying. I can't think of anything for you to help with.
You might need help breathing!
Breathing? I certainly do not.
So again, for out of context shots, I've seen stuff like this on DeviantArt. I will have to say, I am scarred for life.
Wow, these people really like Sonic. Oh no.
The fact that several of my friends have turned their masks into blindfolds is quite telling. Meanwhile, we get to the counterplan, because very often in the trope of I owe you my life, the idea is that if you can't dissuade someone from this life debt, you can instead create a scenario where it is fulfilled. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The guy who owes life debt to Robin Hood actually does make good. It's a natural thing, not a planned or concoction.
Twilight!
Now, in some ways, this is Applejack knows Twilight, but then Spike should also know Twilight. Also, this really bugs me. This look for Twilight. Notice that this is more of when she's looking in portrait view. Her horn is vertical, it's dead center, but her face is at an angle. It feels like I've caught her between images. So, a minor thing, but, well, I guess it's always important for any aspiring artist, always try to follow the curve of the face, and ask how that curve is going to, say, have the horn pointing at an angle. So, there we go. That's my brief moment of insight. Go.
Oh, Applejack, I wish I could, but this is dragon code we're talking about. Surely you know how important the dragon code is to a dragon.
Oh, there's that terrible, terrible phrase. It takes some variations, but it's basically as you know. If I could plead with any writing enthusiasts out there, avoid those words in that sequence. Always. There are really only 2 ways that it actually is used. As you know, as in big info dump incoming. I am saying this for the audience's benefit. Problem is, once you realize what that signals, the story starts to feel much more artificial. I compare it to lifting the curtain on The Wizard of Oz.
I'm saying, in case you weren't aware,
In case you aren't, well, that goes to the second use of as you know, is when you're being really condescending to someone, as you should know. But even then, it might be used for an info dump. So be very wary. I find, how shall I put this? Some people really like info dumps. There is a book I read called The Fifth Season by J.K. Nemsen. And she is very good at withholding information from the audience. It all comes together at the end. But when I looked up critiques of the book, a lot of people are saying, you know what, I like a good info dump. Let me know what's going on. So it's a balancing act. You hold back too much and no one knows why anyone's doing anything. You give too much and suddenly the story just hard stops. It doesn't go anywhere. All Applejack has to do is say, I don't understand why he's doing this. And Twilight can explain, because ponies don't know much about dragons. This is why it's so important to Spike. Now, the initial counter plan is to have him counting blades of grass.
Oh, by the way, there are exactly 24,567,837 blades of grass at Sweet Apple Acres.
I can't believe you counted every single one of them.
Every single one of them. Again, this is Spike's unwavering determination. You put a challenge before him, he will not stop. Ever. In a weird way, this episode both gets Spike and gets him totally wrong. Meanwhile, it's kind of funny that only at this final third act we get Pinkie time. It's a bit rare. Pinkie's usually in the middle of things.
Spike needs to save my life.
And you want us to shoot you out of a cannon towards a hornet's nest and give Spike a butterfly net so we can catch you mere seconds before we hit the nest and are stung by 1,000 angry hornets! I'll wear this mustache.
Not the bees.
Not the bees. Okay, but let's admit it. Besides Button Mash, no one else has a more adorable mustache.
This is literally my favorite part of the episode.
It is.
I like Spike's mustache and now as well.
I'm going for adorableness though, and I find
Okay.
Spike is going for nice. Pinkie's going for hops. But here's the thing, Pinkie's humor is often, it can be very intrusive. I find her humor is at its best when it gets you to reconsider the situation. What she just did, this wild speculation, not her best material. Doesn't really get you to reconsider.
Having saved me from certain doom, Spike will then consider us even. Everybody get it?
Just one question.
Yes? No.
Suit yourself.
I have nothing to add to that. I just thought it was funny. Because again, it's just adorable. Now, here's the thing. Rarity. We get a little bit of a weird insight on equestrian culture with Rarity.
Show us your best damsel in distress move.
I cannot run away. I am a damsel in distress. Help me, Spike.
Does anyone else find it a little weird that the damsel in distress is even a concept in Equestria? This is, I would call it egalitarian. I wouldn't say that the system favors mares or stallions or any other group, but damsel in distress is usually, I think, patriarchal viewed. But yet both Rarity and Sweetie Belle were raised on stories of rescuing the damsel in distress. I find that just funny and interesting. That, well, Rarity would probably put a romantic connotation to it. And this didn't happen in the show, but I think this would have been funny, is if she got kidnapped, there was a stallion or someone she thought was cute coming to rescue her, so she actually starts dictating the castle to the tyrant, to their kidnapper, to make it more dramatic. Mm-hmm. And basically he'll be screaming, "Save me from this wedge!" I think
to your keyboards.
Yes, time to Crawlers, attack! And of course, Pinkie, actually her funniest in my eyes is the joyful scream she makes, running from the Timberwolf. Which I also like this design. I mean, you got Rainbow Dash doing the roar that will one day scare Fluttershy in 28 pranks later. You got Fluttershy making the clock. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. And most of all, you're watching the main six work in sync without any of the friction that we usually see in these episodes. But then we get to, of course, the "Help me, Spike!" And I love that when Spike calls baloney, both Applejack and the mannequin puppet turn to look at him. I kind of wish Twilight had been so committed to the role that the puppet keeps interacting.
Well, he would be terrifying if he wasn't a fake. You can smell a real Timberwolf's breath from a mile.
So here we go. A fake. And, you know, the ponies think they're doing such a great job. This is adorable. Adorable Brohoof.
Yeah.
But then this look on Applejack's face when she realizes, oh, there's a real Timberwolf.
Oh.
This is like, I regret everything that has happened today. Maybe even I regret all the choices that have led to this moment in my life. Triple kill, fatality, running wild. I should have added that. But mostly, again, Applejack just using the environment to her advantage. Only to be confronted by Mega Ultra Wolfie. That's what I will call this an Amarok.
Oh.
An Amarok is, well, basically, it's the idea this beast taught the art of hunting 2 wolves at the dawn of time, at the beginning of the world. It's big, it's powerful, he represents nature in a tangible form, so I'm going to call this thing an Amarok. The little looks a little bit like asparagus crown helps.
Forget it, Spike. You gotta get out of here.
Now, actually, that's an interesting question. One, we're not sure that these things hunt for real for food. They seem to go after anything that trespasses in the domain. What happens to the remains is there's probably many other carrion eaters and insects that would, take care of the rest. Or they may be very aggressive photosynthesis, they just photosynthesize your meat.
I have to save you!
There's a lot happening in this scene to unpack. One, yes, I threw another rock at him. It was a big rock. Thank you. As someone who's been coughing tonight from straining his voice, I totally empathize with this Amarok.
I thought it was just going to be like a joke.
I feel bad for him. But notice.
I thought it was just going to cough it up, and no, it just died.
I know. It died. Well, what is this scenario? David and Goliath.
Oh.
A virtuous soul throws a rock. He has no chance with anybody. He throws a rock and overcomes an aggressive giant. Now I have to research a little more about David and Goliath to understand all the symbolism within that story. But I see a lot of the parallel here. Also, well, here's Spike. Right now it looks like he's serenading the rock. But what I appreciate is that while the beast is choking, Spike uses innovation, leverage. Spike, again, this whole episode is about confronting a threat when you're at a significant disadvantage and using things to that advantage. Applejack uses the environment and the rocks to get a triple kill, knock out 3 Timberwolves. Spike causes the thing to choke, uses its own discarded body parts to leverage Applejack free. In some ways, it's innovation overcoming brute force, and the use of tools over wild nature.
I think the use of literally choking death was a big gruesome push.
Well, I mean, technically, it fell forward and dispelled. Remember, anytime someone dies, they're really dispelled into the ether.
Fainted.
Yeah. The Amarok and King Sombra are floating in the hereafter like, oh, so how'd you die? Crystal rock? How'd you die? Regular rock?
I know this code thing's important to you, but if something like this comes up in the future, think maybe we can go back to my code, say that's what friends do, and leave it at that?
I find it funny that the element of honesty hasn't really tried saying that before. Now, granted, I'm not really a fan of reducing the character to their power. It'd be like saying Applejack's never tempted to lie because she's the element of honesty. Not true. She's been through that experience. She knows the consequences. But here, having a simple sit down with Spike hasn't really been a focus, and I feel like that's ignoring the obvious. The biggest counter to that is Spike already said he'd feel less like a noble dragon if he were rejected. And Applejack needed to give that assurance. So perhaps that's the real lesson here. To state your intentions, your needs, but at the same time be aware of the other person's need to reassure that won't be lost. Oh no.
Amber's coming.
Yeah?
Oh,
Amber Alert. Oh. So, well, that. I never liked that feeling. But basically, asserting yourself is not selfish. You're being a little selfish. I'm not cursing, I swear. But I appreciate that Applejack is still reassuring Spike, I don't think less of you. This is not, you're not any less noble. I respect you. And sometimes that's the biggest thing. But then again, as Lightning Bliss pointed out in her panel, you do have to set down limits. You do have to say, no, stop. And we're getting to the point where either Applejack would have to comfort Spike, and if that failed, really lay down a hard limit, and he'd have to work through his feelings after that. So the idea is, it's great to reaffirm people's sense of self, but never sacrifice your own to do so. So, and then we have, as far as I know, the first interspecies bro buff. So, and then we get to close out that Spike really enjoys helping Twilight. His competence is returned. And there's your third out of context screenshot to trigger any number of fan art. Now, I'm going to propose one idea for an alternate take on this episode. Just to say, the idea is fun, but it's in the execution. It stays too close to the trope we see in sitcoms. What if Spike was such a great helper, Applejack was starting to feel a little, well, it was really helpful. It was great to have another set of claws on the farm. But then Twilight suffers a lack of productivity as a result. And then Applejack actually has a bit of a temptation. You know, how does she navigate this? Get Spike to take up his own cause? Or could they split time? You know, maybe as much as I praise the fact I get to see the main six acting as a fully functioning unit with no friction, at the same time, conflict in story demands it. It might be interesting to see how they would resolve what does Spike want to do. What does Spike want to do versus his honor versus what Applejack's wishes? Sooner or later, they gotta come down to what does Spike want. I like that idea. But that's just one idea from a guy who's watched the show. Now, we have got 5 minutes left in this panel, and I'm hoping I can answer some questions. Starting with, you had your hand up?
Oh, I was just thinking another possibility is Spike is good at the chores, but then Applejack starts to feel like she's not doing enough.
Oh.
Because he's taking.
I have that idea too.
You know what? I like that idea more because suddenly you have Spike and
She
Applejack.
defines herself by her work.
Yes. Right. Yes, I like that idea much more. They both define themselves by their work and have to recognize their self-value. I like that. That's excellent. Yes?
On the note of Timberwolves and whether they actually eat or not, I want to get your take on an idea that I saw years ago on Thick, that Timberwolves do, in fact, eat what they kill, and that's why their breath smells so terrible, because they used to be composting.
Although I'm picturing their stomach as like tree roots burrowing inward amongst the compost. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight, thanks. So, welcome to Edgelords Anonymous. I'd like to thank you all for bringing your best Grimdark. I love how your mind works. I love how you picture that. It's highly imaginative. But I am going to have nightmares tonight. But, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Ooh.
That's a D&D. C-O-R-P-S-E. And so that's colloquially known as.
Well,
Yeah,
should I or shouldn't I?
Oh.
No, you're right.
It doesn't look bad.
It doesn't.
Do you ever the evolution of bloom that flower coating?
Yes.
It's essentially that flower.
Oh, wow. 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 Okay. Personally, his parasect was always the one that scared me. Basically, the mushroom on its back is a parasite consuming its mind. Welcome to The Last of Us, Pokemon style. So, any other questions? Because we can get really dark. I'm not opposed to this. But.
This is not. So I remember when I first watched this episode, I really identified with both you shows that Applejack documented slightly out of place. Afterwards, Twilight goes, and she runs over and she does that.
Oh yeah.
I could really identify it. If I'm really tends to concentrate on something, I don't find it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Whenever there's a change, if something's missing in my home, I'm not right until I find it. I need to know where everything is, even if it's in clutter.
I've heard so many people say they relate to that. I'm starting to think it's actually more common than we thought it was.
Well, as I put this, I never resent when people will want to use a character to demonstrate something like obsessive-compulsive, or they're on the spectrum perhaps. But here's the difference. Using a character as an example, I think, is different than diagnosing the character. With using the character as an example, even if you don't agree that Twilight is obsessive-compulsive, she's just really regimental, you can still gain an insight into that worldview. If someone just says, oh, Twilight has OCD, and leaves it at that, well, then it's a binary either or. You have to either accept or reject the diagnosis. And I find that much less helpful.
To add to that, I have some degree of it. And sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's low. It's not a constant thing. It's not like Jack Nicholson in.
As good as it gets? I remember.
He had very high OCD throughout that movie.
Yes.
And when it does get that high, yes, it does get to be a big problem.
But not always.
That it's not a huge problem. And that might be the case with Twilight. Sometimes, like for her, like for Princess Celestia, anxiety's high,
And that's a great educational means to use Twilight to establish the differentiation. Then we're not asking, is she OCD? But we're saying, what does a person experience during this phase, and how does it vary? Again, that's better than either or. Yes, she has OCD. No, she doesn't. Yes, no. Yes, no. That's counterproductive. I believe I saw another hand, and this, I'm afraid this will have to be our last question of the evening. Or my eyes are playing tricks on me. Why not? My computer has all night.
Okay, that's all, folks.
All right, that sounds like da 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 da. But hey, my singing wasn't that bad. All right, everyone, I want to thank you for coming and talking about this episode, sharing your grim, dark ideas. Ooh, I will have nightmares. And your insights. Have a great rest of Harmonycon. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for coming.
You too. All right.